you so much for joining me today for the open source in the time of COVID-19. So I want to be clear that this is not a talk about productivity. I don't want you to just jump in and start putting as much pull requests and contributing to open source. Do what you need to do in this time. And if Animal Crossing or baking sourdough or doing nothing is helping you, that's the right thing for you to be doing. We do have an opportunity to shape and direct the way we work to embrace more strategies and processes from open source. And I'm happy to talk about those over in chat or in the Microsoft Azure booth area. So I'm going to get personal here, and I might get a little feels. It started with a slight fever. My 3-year-old son seemed a bit irritable, and his temperature was measuring at 99 degrees. So we weren't really worried. It wasn't a high fever. We'd been following our stay-at-home orders here in Santa Clara, and the last socialization we'd had was at his preschool. So it wasn't a big deal until the next morning. His screams woke me up. I can't breathe, Mama. He was burning up and his temperature was 104. He was gasping, he was wheezing. And on one level, I knew that talking was a sign that he was breathing, because you can't talk if you can't breathe. On another, there was a slow panic brewing. Like, what is this? We called our doctor and they said, come in. And we went to one of these drive-in clinics and we're told to wait in the car. I hadn't thought through it, the whole idea of Frankie meeting a doctor he doesn't know and personal protective equipment. He's only 3. So we explained that the doctor was a superhero who wanted to help him feel better. Now, Frankie appreciates a good superhero story. So he let the doctor take his temperature, take his blood pressure and his oxygen saturation. Frankie wasn't sick enough to be tested, but we were told, assume that he is positive for COVID. So now we were going into a next level of isolation. Those next 2 weeks tested me in ways that I just frankly wasn't prepared for. I was watching worldwide impacts and death tolls mounting. I was watching my son struggle, and every night, all of this screaming. Then my partner's grandmother died. So I've dealt with so many personal crises, but this was at a level at which I've never felt before. Well, some people talk about having an anxiety disorder and it like enabling them in this catastrophe is a superpower. For me, it felt like, wow, all of my coping strategies are gone. I can't go and have coffee with my friends and just talk and let go. I was feeling very overwhelmed. Working from home isn't new to me. This level of anxiety and lack of certainty was beyond anything I've experienced before. I'm a developer advocate at Microsoft, supporting open source. So my job is essentially to constantly learn, connect with people across different communities, sometimes write code, speak, write documentation, and support the community through building bridges into companies. How do I do any of that when we are all faced with this onslaught of some personal and global scale trauma? I'm privileged. I have a job. I have solid management that have been thoughtful through this whole period and communicated next steps every part of the path as we have progressed through this disease. I've still struggled. My creativity, my purpose in work, my flow felt blocked. Today, I want to talk about my path to finding meaningful work, even in this time of crisis, and how community can support you through building and strengthening your relationships, learning new skills, and contributing in meaningful ways. So, prior to all of these events, I had started talking to Carolyn, who is this amazingly smart, awesome engineer here at Microsoft. She has been involved in so much different communities with an open source, and she is so well known for creating welcoming and inclusive communities. She has this project called Porter. And Porter is this project to help encapsulate all the different ways that you might want to manage everything it takes to install, uninstall, upgrade, and operate an application. So like Helm or Terraform or AZ, the Azure CLI, or AWS or kubectl. It includes bash scripts or configuration files, Docker images, all of these different things. So something that I'm very interested in. So there are a lot of projects out there right now that are doing COVID-related initiatives that can help and support people. Those areas were not something I could even consider helping out. The feelings even now are just still raw. So that wasn't an option for me. But I knew that Porter appealed to me because it was solving one of these complex infrastructure challenges that's often overlooked. It's dealing with the glue that between different components. So rather than dumping individuals into a project with this long checklist of like, step one, set up this Docker container. Oh, even before that, install this Docker and then set up this container and then set up these other pieces in your infrastructure before you get to the point of developing or installing code. Porter solves that. You create a manifest and get people going faster. So there are two primary community channels outside of GitHub issues for communication with the team, Zoom and Slack. There's this additional maintainer meeting to get together and talk about what's next and squash particular issues that have come in. So once I had my base needs met, right? I've got security, I've got a solid path to getting food for my family, my child is feeling better. Now I was trying to find the capacity to work again, that motivation. This weekly maintainer meeting was so critical for me because it was an opportunity to connect with other people doing the work, but also connecting with people. During my first bug squash, I learned about the different labels that are used to qualify different issues that are raised. I really like the use of the different emojis to signal not just the urgency, but also sets the tone for the collaboration with the team. This is like a little hack that I never even thought about. And I mean, you could debate whether chocolate or donuts or pizza are more important. It was just a little bit of humanity that I needed. I was promoted from community member to contributor. Being recognized for my contributions of providing feedback about the bugs and helping to close some of them really mattered to me. In that moment, I felt like something was starting to unblock me. I felt just a little bit better. So I was determined to keep contributing. I wanted to continue to feel more normal, if there can be such a thing as feeling normal right now. Porter is written in Go, and that's an opportunity for me to learn Go while also contributing to open source. It's not something I already know. I started walking through the contributing guide and discovered some discrepancies in the process. So at the next maintainers meeting, when we were reviewing the roadmap, I asked to have improve the new contributor experience added, and now I have a project. As I was thinking about all of these different pieces, I realized that it's in alignment with the 5 components that are often recognized as being part of being happy in work. This freedom to choose what you're working on, being challenged, learning from your work, having a positive atmosphere to work in, and making meaningful contributions. Happy might not be the right descriptor to use right now, but I do find that these same qualities helped me bridge out of the anxiety funnel I was in. Spending time talking to awesome, welcoming people, working on a project that I didn't already know the ins and outs, and a language I don't know, felt like this achievable challenge. I'm learning new things regularly. Like last week, I learned that with Go modules, we don't need import comments anymore, so I can eliminate some code rather than allowing it to just stay and suffer in this repository. So I'm making meaningful contributions that help people. The open source community has been doing remote communication and collaboration, so we're really well prepared for social distancing. Research from Dr. Nicole Fosgren on GitHub repositories shows that other people must be recognizing this value of the positive feelings as well, because code contributions are thriving. So you can find your community. your project. You can help the COVID projects. You can also find your areas of interest. If you love puppies, there might be a puppy project that could use your help right now. If you're passionate about improving the infrastructure experience, maybe join me and Carolyn over on Porter. Find your people first, then find your project. VM's book on Forge Your Future with Open Source is an excellent resource for finding a project if you're completely new to open source. Or you can come hang out with me in the Azure booth after this talk, and we can help find you a project to contribute to. But I want to encourage you to challenge yourself and find projects that are working in languages and tool sets that you might not be familiar with. Your contributions in design, visual diagrams, support, documentation, and a myriad of other areas will be meaningful. We're all suffering right now in different ways. Be kind to yourself, value what you can contribute if you can contribute, and bring kindness with your contributions. Help nourish the positive environment of open source community. Thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to share my story. I hope you lean into the available support from the open source community. If you want to check out our Microsoft Azure booth and learn some new skills, there's also some documentation here that I've linked to. As again, I've mentioned before, I'll be over in the booth and I'm happy to help you make your first contribution to open source.